I just want to ask, where are all the people who stayed up all night 3 years ago to line up with me to buy a home? These buildings have been built for 2 years and only a dozen or so have moved in. By the end of 2021, the rapid cooling of China's real estate and its impact on China's economy has scared the Chinese Communist Party. Beijing is concerned that dropping real estate prices would weigh down broader economic activity. It has recently begun to change its tune and released some softening comments on real estate. It's clear that China's capital market has been edging up steadily for 3 consecutive years since 2019. The interest rate and inflation remained at a relatively low level compared with the developed economies. China's capital market began to demonstrate its own unique style and logic. The Chinese government has followed up with stimulus policies, but real estate in China has already entered a vicious cycle where it's difficult to reactivate the market. The number of default mortgages is still growing. On January 20th, 2022, China's central bank lowered some key interest rates, including the 5-year lending rate normally used as a reference for setting mortgage rates. It has also begun to publish detailed monthly mortgage growth numbers. These moves are intended to reassure the market that home lending in China is in good shape. Previously, in December 2021, China's central bank announced a full-scale rate cut, releasing 1.2 trillion renminbi, or about $190 billion in long-term funds. This is also an attempt to send positive signals, stabilize market confidence, and provide financing support to distressed real estate companies as well. However, the central bank's cutting the interest rate may only mean savings of 30 renminbi a month for the average Chinese who shoulder a mortgage of 1 million renminbi. This is why one Chinese person commented, "This is great news, unbelievable news. It's like when I want to pull an aircraft carrier and the other guy brings me a small wheelbarrow." A Chinese lawyer revealed on Weibo that law firms received the most number of mortgage default cases in the past year. The default rate has been increasing annually over the past few years. He estimated that the number of defaults reached 2 million in 2021, and there may be more in 2022, as many Chinese families are now struggling to make ends meet due to the pandemic. This video has been making the rounds on the internet in China. This man stood in the hallway and said, "I am the owner of Unit 201, Entrance 2, Building 20. Seoul Boulevard in Yanjiao. Because of the financial pressure of mortgage payments, I would like to offer the home for free to someone who can help me pay off the remaining balance. I take full legal responsibility for what I just said." Yanjiao is a small town near Beijing, also known as the bedroom town. People living here leave at 5 a.m. and can arrive at their workplace in Beijing at 9 a.m. Chinese media reports that close to 400,000 people commute between Beijing and Yanjiao every day. Yanjiao used to be a hotspot for buying homes and investment properties. But in 2017, Yanjiao was issued a purchase bylaw that's probably the most restrictive in China. It requires out-of-town buyers to provide proof of 3 consecutive years of local social security coverage or tax papers in order to purchase one new home. It has instantly cut off the home purchase channel for out-of-town workers in Beijing, as locals can't digest the huge amount of properties in this area. Home prices are rapidly dropping to a point where more and more homeowners are worried that their mortgages are now more expensive than the selling price. In December 2021, a photo posted by a Yanjiao homeowner went viral on Chinese social media. The text on the picture read, "Because there are too many homes and I can't afford the monthly payment, I will give you this home for free. I don't want a cent for it. You just have to pay the monthly payment, and I just don't want to have any delinquent payments." Another Yanjiao homeowner posted his ordeal on social media as well. He bought a 3-bedroom apartment in 2017 for about $670,000 with a down payment of about $200,000 and a loan of $470,000. Because of the economic downturn, he ended up missing payments. After the calculation, he found out, based on the current market, after selling the home, he would still owe the bank $65,000. But he didn't have the money for it, so he chose to miss the payments. He was then taken to the court by the bank and lost it. In the past 4 years, he paid the bank $127,000, of which only $25,000 was the principal and $102,000 was the interest. Now the home is only worth about $380,000. If it's sold in foreclosure, the price will probably be even lower, which means even after the foreclosure, he will still owe the bank at least $65,000. Add to that the fact that the court ruled against him, he therefore is responsible for all kinds of expenses during this time, totaling more than $30,000, including close to $20,000 in attorney fees. In other words, this poor homebuyer lost $364,000 in cash payments over 4 years and took on $65,000 in debt without getting anything out of it. What's more, he is put on the blacklist of bad credit, which has seriously affected his personal credit. According to the People's Court Asset Litigation Network in China, a significant portion of the homes to be auctioned in 2021 were owned by banking institutions, suggesting that the majority of debtors were mortgage defaulters. China's Time Finance reported that foreclosed homes in 2017 were just over 9,000, but it jumped to 500,000 in 2019. By 2020, it doubled to 1.27 million. And as of October 2021, it has reached 1.68 million, nearly 190 times higher than the number in 2017. And it continues to rise as well. Foreclosed homes often sell for 70% to 80% of the market price. While the foreclosure market is booming, there are many heartbreaking stories of Chinese families behind this market. In China, people who take out loans to buy homes have little to no protection and must pay back what they owe the bank. I really regret it now. I bought a home right after I graduated from school. I really regret it now. I have to pay the mortgage every month. I'm going to be a slave for 30 years. I feel kidnapped every time I get a text message from the bank. I have signed a deed of sale, having sold myself in actuality. I don't dare miss a payment. You know, in China, if you are on the list of defaulters, it's scary. You can't travel on high-speed trains or airplanes. It seriously affects your life. It affects your children too. It even affects your employment, and you lose a lot of legal rights. It's like you have a 30-year bomb strapped to your body. In case of any setbacks and you can't make the payment, you have to know that you are human and you will get sick. You will have a lot of hardships. Are there enough resources in your family for you? If you fall and can't repay the loan, is there anyone to pay for it? Be sure to think this through, young people who are planning to buy a home. The spectacular development is also near Beijing. It's the well-known Xiong'an New District. The developments we see now are actually in ruins and nobody lives in them. According to the China Real Estate Information Association, contract sales of the top 100 developers in 2021 fell by an average of 9%, with both prices and volumes declining. A report by China's Daily Economic News on February 12, 2022, said that based on data from the China Index Research Institute, new home sales fell 34.1% year-on-year in 50 Chinese cities in January, which was a growing trend. Also in January, almost all of the listed real estate companies in mainland China experienced a decline in sales. According to CRIC, China's leading real estate big data application service provider, 42 out of 45 companies reported a decline, with the majority experiencing double-digit declines. Recent official statistics showed that new home prices have started to fall. This is the first time since early 2015 that new home prices have gone down. Statistics from 70 major cities in China show that prices of second-hand homes are also edging lower. Some local governments have introduced measures to bolster local home prices, including extended subsidies and warnings to developers not to offer big discounts. In some industrial cities where resources are depleted or close to bankruptcy, home prices are dirt cheap.
现在这个入住率高不高？好像不太高吧，那都空着呢嘛。这是我家1楼，我也不咋回来，卖了，太闲了。想卖5万的还没人买呢，去年8月份装修的，花3万，房子也跟个白菜价似的呗。 距离市区它是多少公里？20左右。一间屋一个卫生间。咱们这个是多大平方？70.06，对比180。
8000块钱现在也有，6楼现在8000、1万能买着，这个不是假。
The cooling of China's real estate seems to have happened overnight. The CCP leaders introduced the Three Red Lines policy in August 2020 in an effort to curb the rapidly expanding real estate bubble. The purpose of this policy is to reduce the financial leverage of Chinese real estate developers. Some developers, backed by the government, such as China Wanke, are the least affected by the lending restrictions. But even such companies are prepared for a modest life. China Entrepreneur Magazine's WeChat page reported on February 12, 2022, that the chairman of Wanke Group's board of directors said at an internal meeting, "Everyone's income will definitely be adjusted significantly downward this year. Our benefits, subsidies, etc. have to be in line with the Black Iron era. The industry is starting to shrink in size, and Wanke has to save money, reduce waste, and create a wartime atmosphere of scrimping and saving." The board chairman also said that he wouldn't be flying first class in the future. Large real estate groups that don't have clear official backing but used to have relatively high credit ratings, such as Xiong'an Group and Country Garden, have been greatly affected by the policy. It has basically terminated their practice of borrowing new debt to pay off old debt over the past few decades. For overseas investors, their biggest concern is that tens of billions of dollars of debt issued by Chinese developers haven't been repaid on time. Some developers have failed to make interest or principal payments. Others have persuaded bondholders to swap their debt for new, less attractive securities, a process known as a distressed debt swap that is often considered by rating companies and investors to be tantamount to default. According to a report by Standard Chartered, dated February 3, 2022, at least 11 Chinese developers have defaulted since February 2021. The most notable of them is China Evergrande. As it hasn't made substantial contact with its foreign creditors, representatives of the creditors said on January 20, 2022, that they have hired lawyers to consider enforcement measures and to take action to defend their legal rights. 2022 is the peak year for debt repayment for Chinese real estate companies. They must raise nearly $100 billion to pay off their debts. At present, investors both inside and outside China are deeply doubtful that these debts can be repaid by Chinese developers. A vicious cycle has formed. Developers' inability to repay their debts have led investors to sell off their bonds. The selling, in turn, inhibits new bond sales in the market. As a result, many troubled developers are left to more defaults on debts because of the broken capital chain. The sudden recession of the Chinese real estate market has also caused the stocks of many Hong Kong-listed Chinese developers to plummet. Chinese real estate companies now make up a large part of the Asian junk bond market. In addition, the resignation of auditors of some major Chinese real estate companies in early 2022 has added to investors' suspicions about the true financial health of Chinese real estate companies. The auditors of Hobson Development Holdings Limited and China Aoyuan Group Limited both resigned in late January. One subsidiary of Xiong'an Group has changed its auditor for the first time in 27 years. If a company fails to meet the March 31st deadline for reporting earnings on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, it could lead to a suspension of trading for an extended period. Analysts at Standard & Poor's Global Ratings wrote in a report on February 16th, "Changing accounting firms before the release of year-end performance will undoubtedly raise questions about the quality of the company's management." There have been recent reports that the CCP may make it easier for developers to obtain refinancing funds and boost stock and bond prices. Chinese banks have extended more loans to the real estate sector. Some lenders in several cities have lowered down payments for mortgages, but many analysts and investors are still on the sidelines. According to China's Beike Research Institute, domestic and foreign bond financing by real estate companies totaled about $7.62 billion in January 2022, a sharp drop of 70% year-on-year. The bleak future for Chinese real estate companies is also reflected in the land market. Data from China's Central Index Research Institute shows that the turnover of planned construction areas of various types of land in 300 cities dropped 30.2% year-on-year in January. The scale of land acquisition by the top 100 real estate companies dropped 62.6% year-on-year in January. The total land acquisition volume of 50 tract real estate developers dropped by 88.8% year-on-year. Once a large real estate enterprise like Evergrande collapses, its chain reaction will implicate 47 industries, such as upstream and downstream raw materials, transportation and construction teams, and especially banks. Currently, many large-scale real estate companies in China may crash at any time, and small and medium-sized real estate companies are even more deeply indebted. So what is the real response of the CCP? It seems likely that the CCP will let the supposedly state-owned enterprises take over. In late January, Xiong'an Group sold a 5-star luxury hotel for more than $700 million to Shanghai Real Estate Group, a state-owned company wholly owned by the city. In January, Xiong'an transferred a property project in Shanghai to another company also wholly owned by the city for $170 million. This should only be the beginning of the CCP's actions. A knowledgeable person in China's real estate industry told overseas Chinese media that an internal meeting of the real estate sector was held in Beijing in 2021. When the CCP Central Committee gave greetings to private enterprises such as Greenland, Xiong'an, Sunac, and Evergrande, saying that state-owned enterprises might come to buy or take a stake or participate in them so that these private enterprises could be prepared when it happens. The financial think tank RED also quoted in January 2022 that 11 real estate enterprises, including Greenland Holdings, Sunac China, and Xiong'an Group, were included in the list of real estate enterprises in need of liquidity support by China's central bank. The central bank has asked 9 state-owned enterprises to provide liquidity support for these medium to high-risk enterprises through the acquisition of project assets. So what does it mean when a communist-led state enterprise comes to buy out a privately owned enterprise in China, making state-owned enterprises come up with the money to convert the debts of these private enterprises into shares of these state-owned enterprises? This process doesn't thrill the central government and SOE officials. They don't want to use or even have that much money to fill the huge debt hole. Eventually, ways will be found to transfer the cost to the 1.4 billion Chinese people. China may be able to avoid a potential Lehman moment, avoiding the risk of a total real estate collapse. But without a doubt, China's real estate market has reached a tipping point and its long-term prospect is looking grim. In addition to the various ills that have accumulated in China's real estate industry and are difficult to eradicate, China faces many headaches, including a general labor force shrinking, imminent negative population growth, and accelerated aging of society, in which case the overall demand for homes will gradually dwindle. So, like cutting meat with a dull knife, China's economic pain will be lasting.